Factoring 101. This is section 8.5, beginning algebra, solve by factoring. At this point, you've learned all the different methods for factoring. If they're any you're a little shaky on, you may want to go back and review those before you do this lesson. To solve an equation by factoring, the first thing that you have to do is fix your equation so that it has 0 on one side. Now, typically this just means moving a term, or maybe two, to the other side of the equation. So let's check out what this might look like. Let's say that I have x squared minus 8x equals negative 12. To be able to solve that, I need to move the 12 to the other side of the equation, and I do this by just simply adding it to both sides. That will give me x squared minus 8x plus 12 equals 0. And from here we have a quadratic excuse me, trinomial, not much different from the ones that we've been working with in the other sections. Now from here we will then factor that polynomial. And there's our polynomial right there. And I think I'm probably going to be out of room, so tell you what, I'm going to factor that right under there, right before it says factor the polynomial. You will just have to forgive me for it not working out quite correctly here. I didn't give enough, or I gave a little bit too much space, I guess, to this part of it. Now, if you know well how to factor a trinomial of this form, you know that the leading coefficient is positive 1. So the only things we have to consider are the factors of 12 that give us 8, negative 8 in this case. We will be adding the factors together to get the negative 8. So 12's got several factors. We have 1 and 12. Oops. We have 2 and 6. And 3 and 4. I think you know by looking there which one's going to work. Which one of those three sets add up to give you 8? Well, we would have 13, 8, or 7. Okay, so it's the middle two, the 2 and the 6. We do need a negative 8, so both will have to be negative. So that's going to give us x minus 2 and x minus 6 for our factors. Now once we have that done, and switch back to the right color here, we're then going to set those equal to 0. So we factor the polynomial. We did that here. Now I'm going to set each one of those factors equal to 0 and solve them. So I'll have x minus 2 equals 0, and x minus 6 equals 0. Excuse me. And if I add the 2 to both sides there, I'm going to get x is equal to 2. And adding 6, I have x equals 6. So those are my two solutions. You can check them by plugging them separately back into the original equation. You can also check, if you want to, if you're worried about your factorization, you can multiply your factors back together, and that will check to see if your factorization is correct. Now let's try another one. Let me squeeze this and get it out of the way. All right. Our next one, let's do x squared. I'll tell you what, let's do 25 x squared minus 16 equals 0. This one's already set equal to 0, so we can skip that step. The next step is to factor. And this is the difference of two squares, right? So to factor the difference of two squares, we get a square root of each term. The square root of 25x squared is going to be 5x. The square root of 16 is 4. And then we do 5x plus 4 and 5x minus 4. Now set each one of those equal to 0. And see what we get. If I subtract 4 from both sides, 5x is equal to negative 4. Divide both sides by 5, and x is negative 4/5. Add 4 to both sides this time. 5x is equal to 4. Divide both sides by 5, and x is 4. Yeah, so we get negative 4/5 and positive 4/5 for our answer.